Bienvenidos a TV Agro.
Welcome to TV Agro, the TV Agro audience. Today we are from the Tavaitata Research Center of Agrosavia in the silvopastoral model of dairy cattle ranching for the Colombian high tropics. My name is Juan Carlos Benavides. I'm a master researcher of Agrosavia's livestock network. Today we would like to introduce you to silvopastoral systems, how producers can incorporate this type of livestock production in livestock farming. What is silvopastoral system? A silvopastoral system is a type of livestock option where trees, grassland, and animals are integrated to improve productivity and sustainability. Sustainability in terms of environment, economic, and social.
Y social. Los sistemas silvopastoriles.
The most common silvopastoral systems in the area are live fences, scattered trees, fodder banks, grazing strips with timber, and high-density fodder trees or shrubs.
Y árboles o arbustos forrajeros en alta densidad. Hoy vemos desde el modelo silvopastoril.
Today we see from the silvopastoral model of Tibetaita a type of arrangement that we have worked on, defined in Agrosavia, and that is dispersed trees in the meadow. These trees are distributed at a certain distance so that there is a uniform shade effect on the pasture, and this is reflected in the productivity of the forage, the herbaceous stratum, and is reflected in the productivity and animal response. I would also like to make reference to the fact that when a silvopastoral model or a silvopastoral system is to be established, certain factors must take into account. What would those factors be? First, to define the silvopastoral arrangement, to define the species of trees to be worked, the planting distances, and to take into account the climate.
Si estamos en zona fría, como lo estamos aquí hoy en Mosquera, en Tibaitatá.
If we are in a cold zone, as we are here today in Mosquera in Tibetaita, we must consider which trees can be incorporated. Wood type, ornamental contribution type, fodder bushes type, which are useful for animal feed. This selection must be very specific, according to what the producer wants. For small producers, fruit trees can be incorporated into the pasture, which can be an input for them in the profitability of the productive system. Once the arrangement and the species to be worked are defined, we can talk about the establishment as such. In this factor or in this activity, we must work very well on the soil.
¿Qué se recomienda? Se recomienda de que se haga un análisis de suelo.
What is recommended? It is recommended to make a soil analysis, to know our soil, just as people go to the doctor to know about their health and they are asked for a laboratory diagnosis. The same happens with the soil and with the system, which requires knowing what the soil has, what it lacks, what are the nutrients, and to make the pertinent corrective measures. If there is grassland degradation, we must improve that part of the grassland. Everything contained in the soil is reflected in the pasture. It is reflected in the productivity of the future tree that is established. When the trees are already established in the pasture, it is also necessary to have fertilization, manuring, and care plans for them. Therefore, when a silvopastoral arrangement is well defined, it allows us to look at how we are going to protect these trees. How are these trees protected? Yes, with mobile electric fences, so that animals in their growth phase do not affect them and they can prosper over time and become established.
No llevar a inmovilizar la pradera durante un tiempo.
The next thing is not to immobilize a pasture for a period of time when the trees are establishing or growing, because this would prevent animals from entering the pasture. For small producers, this is not viable. This is why it is important to recognize this type of protection and this distribution of trees that is going to be made in the meadow, so that there is constant grazing and the meadow is not immobilized during the time of tree establishment. The next point is the maintenance and management of the trees. Then comes the thinning, the pruning of these trees, so that they grow uniformly and so that they are quality products.
Tener árboles maderables, se necesitan árboles que tengan.
If you want to have timber trees, you need trees with an erect shaft, a strong shaft that produce wood. When we have this phase of tree maintenance, this phase of fertilization, of tree care, we are going to obtain very good results.
En los árboles vamos a obtener muy buenos resultados. Si tenemos árboles forrajeros que aporten.
If we have fodder trees that provide material, biomass of very good quality for the animals, we will also see reflected in the fact that there will be a good amount of fodder, that this fodder will be useful for the animals to feed, and that this will be reflected in their production. The next step is the use of this tree material, either as fodder or wood, and the replanting of these trees to continue with the silvopastoral system and the herbaceous component present in the pasture.
Mi nombre es Aldemar Zúñiga López.
My name is Aldemar Zúñiga López, a researcher from Tabetata, and we have been working a lot on silvopastoral systems. Within the silvopastoral systems, because of the great contribution they make to the animals,
Dentro de los sistemas silvopastoriles,
there are several. One is comfort. If the animal is in comfort, we are talking here about milk cows. There will be a greater irrigation of blood in the udder, which is converted into milk production.
va a haber mucho mayor irrigación en la ubre, de sangre, que eso se convierte en producción de leche. Se dice que, o está reportado en la literatura, que más o menos
It is said or it is reported in the literature that more or less up to 20% more of milk production. If the animals are in comfort, that on the other hand, thermal stress or heat stress affects the animals quite a lot. There is a special hormone, progesterone, that if there is not enough oxygenation in the blood, there is no maturation in the oocytes, and if there is no maturation in the oocytes, there is no fertilization. So, if the animal is in comfort and we reduce thermal stress or heat stress, that assimilates a higher production in the animal.
el animal. Entonces ya van dos, en leche y en la parte reproductiva, básicamente.
So that's true, in milk and the reproductive part basically. On the other hand, we have trees that serve us for many things on the farm.
Cosas en la finca. Uno es calidad de forraje, ¿cierto? Hay unos árboles que fijan mucho nitrógeno.
One of them is the quality of the forage. There are trees that fix a lot of nitrogen and apply it to the soil, which produces a greater biomass. That is why we say that silvopastoral systems are self-sustainable on that side. On the other hand, we are evaluating some tree species that the animals graze very well, that have proteins with more than 25%, compared to grasses that are much lower. So that is a great advantage of having systems within the prairies.
También de tener sistemas dentro de las praderas. Hoy en día está de moda el bienestar animal, ¿cierto? Y evaluamos las 5 libertades.
Today, animal welfare is in vogue, and we evaluate the 5 freedoms of animal welfare. Within those 5 freedoms, and we believe that silvopastoral systems become the 5 freedoms in cattle. One of the freedoms is forage quality and quantity. If we look at the prairies in comparison to where there are no trees, here there is much more forage, and that is the first freedom. The second freedom, comfort, basically that's what the system gives the animals, so we have comfort. The other third freedom, which is health.
Básicamente Aquí en ganadería de cría, los parásitos los atacan mucho, ¿cierto?
Basically, here in livestock farming, the parasites are the ones that attack a lot. There are trees that have an effect that we call secondary metabolites, which help to control parasites. So, if the animals consume trees that have this effect, which they eat very well, we reduce the amount of parasites. Let's say that they would be there, but they would not be affecting the animals. So that way we are reducing the health part.
Que hay que tener en cuenta de una de las tres libertades. Y la otra de las libertades que hablan es que
which must be taken into account from one of the three freedoms. The other of the freedoms that speak that with this system we allow the animals to behave in a natural way, that the animals graze, that they scratch. We also say that a silvopastoral system is like a buffet type restaurant, that you look at one thing, you crave it, you look at the other, it is served on the plate. So, as the systems have different flavors and smells, the trees, the weeds, the grass, so this enriches the environment so that the animal enjoys what it's eating. We recommend to our producers, basically in livestock farming, to introduce trees in the pasture, as we know the ultimate benefits they bring to the system. We believe that silvopastoral systems are for livestock farming of the present and the future, where the benefits they have an impact on the production of the animals. For more information, producers can contact us through our on-screen page.
se pueden contactar a nuestra página que aparece en pantalla.